Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are trying to play a Dark Depths deck. However, Dark Depths having a bit of a rough time in the meta right now, so the closest thing to a meta deck I could find right now was this particular lands build, which top-8'd an event in Lisbon. So, this is Jaoa Fernando's list from the Lisbon event, and it's pretty much a stock lands list these days. Most lands lists tend to run the Swords to Plowshares, but we also have access to Kahira the Orphan Guard, which is a bit of an unusual one that you don't see very often. So I thought this was an interesting one to highlight for you. So this is a deck that is trying to utilise the powerful synergy of Life from the Loam and Exploration. So we can just dredge loads of cool lands, bring them back, and our win conditions are few, but they are good ones. So Urza's Saga, which we can recur repeatedly. This is a very strong card, as you all know from watching Legacy and playing Legacy. But we get to ramp this out early, we get to make all the tokens from it, and then we have a nice little shooter box with Expedition Map, Pithing Needle, Saga Lantern, and of course, Vexing Bauble. Our other win condition is Thespian Stage Dark Depths, where we can just try and pop off with a big 20/20, which you know is a thing that I love to do. We can also use the stage to copy the Saga and just have a permanent Saga that we can then turn into a basic land using our forest, and just have constructs as much as we want them. We have a bunch of mana here, so Lush Portico, Savannah, Windswept Heath, all that sort of jazz. We have one Tropical Island for some sideboard cards too. And then we have a bunch of tech lands. So we've got Wasteland, Maze of Ith, Tabernacle, Talon Gates, Otawara, which is another reason to have blue in the main deck, Karakas, Ghost Quarter, so we can really jam someone right up and remove all of their ability to play the game. A couple of Boseijus, and of course the Bojuka Bog. Rounding this out, we have ourselves a couple of Sylvan Library to help with an almost Life from the Loam-like effect where we get to see additional cards every turn. The crop rotation so we can find the tech pieces we need at any given moment, and of course the Swords to Plowshares I mentioned earlier, which you kind of just need in the format given the creatures running around. Sideboard wise, we obviously have the Kahira, we've got some Force of Figures to blow up some spooky artifacts and Blood Moons and that sort of jazz. 3 Consigned Memory, which is why we're running the blue here. We can also have blue out of the Mox Diamond. There's a lot of colourless decks, whether it's Carnforge or Eldrazi or whatever, we're going to want access to this. Blue Blast, which again can hit any sort of Blood Moon effect, apart from Harbinger of the Seas, which is something that our list is going to have to need these Swords to Plowshares to answer. A couple of Get Lost, which is a nice flexible thing. I imagine we're not great into Tamiyo, so having a way that we can actually deal with Tamiyo might be quite useful. There's no Blast Zone in this particular list, which is one that I would run in lands purely for Tamiyo. Got some Graveyard Hate as well, and some Curse Totem to stop Nadu shenanigans. Love Curse Totem. Alright, that's a deck. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to see my videos early, you can become a member for just £1 a month on my YouTube, and that gets you early access to my videos. And now it's time to sink into the lovely pattern of playing a Dark Depths lands deck. Let's keep Depthcember rolling. We're on the play for our first game. I don't mind having a Saga Lantern given the meta right now, but what does this hand do against Mystic Forge deck, which is kind of the other big target in the format right now? Not the most, but I think we're going to be pretty cold to that main deck anyway. So I think we can do better than this and find some sort of engine, because this is just Urza Saga all in. A single Wasteland kind of undoes us, so we're going to mulligan this. Okay, I can deal with this one. So I'll probably pitch... what are we going to get rid of here? I kind of want to have access to the Dark Depths, so we have a 20/20. It is Depthcember after all. I think I do want the Mox Diamond, so we can play the Saga and the Mox Diamond and start making constructs on 2. So we're getting rid of the Ghost Quarter, and that means we're probably getting rid of either the Wasteland or the Windswept Heath. If our plan is just to make mana, using the Saga, make mana to go into the Saga, I think we probably want to keep the Windswept Heath over the Wasteland. So we get rid of the Ghost Quarter, then we put the Wasteland into the graveyard off the Mox Diamond, then we can maybe pick that up later if we need it, with something like a Life from the Loam. Let's play this Mox Diamond, see if this resolves first. We could always just bin off the Dark Depths and try and get that later, but I do like having access to the combo right now. I think I will stick with our original plan. We just make some constructs, and this way, because we have the Mox Diamond out, if our opponent tries to Wasteland us, we can then rotate it into another copy of Urza Saga. Yavimaya, okay. That does change things slightly. Oh, we're in some sort of mirror match. That was unexpected. I wonder if our opponent is green-white. They're probably much more like we are because of the exploration. You don't see this as often in the green-white Depths deck. We have our Windswept Heath. We can tap this for green thanks to our opponent's Yavimaya. We can make a 20/20 next turn as well if we want to, thanks to our opponent's Yavimaya. Karakas. Okay, we're not doing that then until we get our Wasteland up and running. So our opponent's probably on the Abzan build. So we're making a construct on our opponent's end step. Untap, make another friend. What are we going to find here? We could get the Pithing Needle so we can shut down their cracks. I think we just want the expedition map so we can just keep this train rolling. I will play out this Mox Diamond. Given our opponent's Karakas, I think I'm probably going to bin off this Dark Depths right now. Playing one of our guys. Sure. This means we can take a hit from an opposing Merit Lage. Am I going to get rid of this Dark Depths? I think so. Just having the answer for the Life from the Loam in hand isn't a bad place to be. We don't get to attack with the Construct because the one that got killed was the one that wasn't summoning sick. Our opponent's probably getting a Lush Portico or whatever the other colour one is called that I can remember. Alright, Dried Arbor. Okay, so we are probably looking at a Abzan Depths rather than a sort of full-on land strategy like we're playing. So maybe that favours us because we have more tech pieces in our lands. There is the Life from the Loam. So they're going to get back some value here, but we're going to erase that next turn with this Bojuka Bog from hand. Right, it's over to us again. Let's jam this Bojuka Bog. Say no to your Life from the Loam. We don't really want to crack this expedition map yet either. Alright, so they're going to Nurturing Peatland here. Sure. We don't have an Echoing Deeps, do we? Oops, that just goes through, unfortunately. I think we have to play the land there and at least try that out. Alright, so they got Dry the Lycian Grove. So we could blow up their Exploration if we wanted to, but that just gives them more mana anyway, which is kind of... so what are we doing? I think we're just attacking here. And then maybe we crop rotate into a Urza Saga, just carry on with the beats. Or we can crack the expedition map. We can do both if we want to, but it depends how much power we want to have access to. Because obviously the expedition map is giving us +1 power to each of our constructs. I think we'll be better off using this Boseiju as a sort of clutch piece to remove like Dark Depths in response to something going off with like Thespian Stage. I imagine they only have 1 or 2 copies of both Stage and Depths if they're a Selesnya build. Oh, sorry, Abzan build. Because they're Depths and we're lands, so they don't have as many copies of all the tech lands or as many tech lands. So we've got like 3 Maze of Ith, they've got 1 to tutor for. From the Loam. Just get back 1 land, that's fine. All the while our opponent's doing this, we are beating them down for some damage. Alright. I think at the end step we will go and turn this Bojuka Bog into a Saga. I'll take the 1. As long as we're above 20, we can also take a Merit Lage hit, which is really important. Green, let's crop rotate away this Bojuka Bog. Go and get another Urza Saga. Just bring the continuous beats. Splash. We'll make a construct here. Right, I have the plow. Do I want to have access to cracking this expedition map, or do I want to have access to a Boseiju later on? I think I want the Boseiju in play, in case we have to fetch a land and then play it on our next turn. We've got a plow, we can leverage that if we want to. Just a Savannah from the opponent. Volrath's Stronghold. Right, so they can just eternally block with their Dryad Arbor, but we're going to have a second guy soon. We could just plow this, they can't do that. This time I'm going to leave up the Windswept Heath in case we want to get the Lush Portico. We could go get Pithing Needle for Volrath's Stronghold, or we could go and get this Soaring Lantern and just take out the Loam. I think I'd like to take out the Loam, please. So when we took that Loam out before, it did stop our opponent's resources for a little bit, because then they had to do a Life from Loam not getting very much back. It's working out alright for us. Do I want to... I don't think I want to kill this Dryad Arbor. I think if they go to blocks, then I will hit the Stronghold. I'm going to see something spicy here. Talon Gates of Madara. They're going to phase out our construct. They are indeed. Okay, so we don't need to Wasteland the Stronghold this turn either. We've already played our land. We've got the expedition map available if we want it. We've got Plow. We've got Soaring Lantern. We've got a lot of levers to pull here. We just have to make sure that we pull the right ones and our opponent doesn't have something that beats us. Alright, they're scooping it up. So we managed to get there eventually. Let's go to the sideboard. So our opponent seems like they are playing more of like an Abzani Depths list. So the Dryad Arbor tells me that they probably have access to Green Sun Zenith, which means having these Get Losts are probably going to be handy for us. The Cursed Totems also look pretty good against Reclaimer. And Force of Vigor can blow up opposing Sagas. It can also blow up their Explorations. So we'll even that out. So there's potentially 7 cards I'm interested in. We don't care about Vexing Bauble here. Pithing Needle is good. Soaring Lantern is good. Expedition Map is good. Let's pull out a bunch of lands so we can have a look at what lands we have. And then we can work out the correct one that we need to cut. Because we're probably going to have to be cutting into our land package a little bit. Do I think this is a match where we need the Ghost Quarter? Possibly. there's definitely a chance of them having Thespian Stage that becomes a basic land after gaining some other additional text. So that's an interesting one. Are we as heavily incentivized to do graveyard stuff? Another one. So we probably want to keep our blue stuff in because we want to bounce over 2020 that our opponent has. So at the moment, we've only managed to find one cut. Do we trim on our graveyard package slightly? We could do. We could also trim on an expiration. So that gets us access to 2 Cursed Totems and a Get Lost, I think. Yeah, and then if we want these other cards, we're going to have to find... Oh, so this is Destroy. This is an Exile, actually. So this won't kill a Marinade, but it will kill their guys, and they're playing guys when we're playing more lands. Talon Gates is fine here, but maybe I would prefer to have just some more removal. And Tabernacle is good. All of our land destruction is good. Maze of Ith is going to help in a lot of ways. Do we need access to the Force of Figures? Maybe we don't need those, and we're just fine like this. Because we don't really want to draw multiple expirations. I'm okay having just one of them. And Life and Loam is something that's probably going to get hated on from our opponent with like Bojuka Bogs and stuff like that. So we don't want to be flooded with these sorts of effects. Alright, I think we're going to play it like this. Maybe we'll get Kahira the Orphan Guard in play at some point today. I'm skeptical that we're ever going to play it. But it's there. We can play Pokemon. Yep, this looks like a pretty standard looking lands hand. We can Savannah, Exploration, and then play out our Lush Portico. And then we're pretty close to just making a 2020. Now, is that going to be good against our opponent's white deck? Unlikely. But we can certainly find an avenue. We need to be careful about playing our own Dark Depths while our opponent has access to Thespian Stage in their list, because if we play our Dark Depths, they can stage it, and then all of a sudden they have a 2020 and we are desperately looking for an answer at that point. So we want the Depths to be the last card that leaves our hand. There's Yavimaya, we're going to see a Reclaimer. Okay, sure. So this is why we boarded in a bunch of removal. Just seeing that Dryad Arbor was enough to tell us exactly what our opponent was up to. I believe I will go and get a Forest here. Do I need to get Forest? Or do I need... Yeah, I think I do want a Forest here. Just get a basic underneath us. Score the Exploration. Do I want to have access to this crop rotation, or do I want to get this Lush Portico Surveil over and done with? I think I'm going to play out the Savannah in case we get Wastelanded. We can just rotate whatever they Wasteland into something more useful. We could always just go and get a Saga on the go and then try and work towards a Pithing Needle for the Reclaimer, but that's going to give them at least 2 activations, which is probably too many for us to care about. Okay, Collect Roof is fine. If they're not using their Reclaimer and playing a Collect Roof, I'm very happy about that. I think I am going to get a crop rotation here. Just get this on the go. If we draw a Plains... Sorry, if we draw a Plow, I'm probably going to want to have access to that. So I think we actually get rid of our basic here. So we go and get the Saga here. Now this does expose us to a Force of Vigor. This ticks up. So now we can make some friends. So you can play out... If we play out this Saga and activate this next turn... So we'll miss out on a construct if we do it that way. So I think I'm just going to play this Boseiju first. And then the Lush Portico. And get a little bit of Surveil action going. Sort of Plowshares. I very much would like to have that on for next turn. Personally speaking, I did prefer the days when lands was a green-red deck. I enjoyed punishing firing people out. I really liked it when it was a blue-green deck before Dark Depths was even... before Thespian Stage was a part of the plan. Those were the really old days where you're like casting intuitions and things. Alright, 2 damage. We're not going to block with our 1-1. A Blast Zone. A Knight of the Reliquary. Well, I can tell you what's going to happen to that creature. Let's make ourselves a construct. And then we'll make another construct, leaving up white. And then, what do we want here? We can get a Pithing Needle and name the Reclaimer. I quite like that. And then we just plow the Knight. I don't like the way I've done that. If we'd have done that slightly differently, we could have... We didn't need to plow straight away. We could have got the Life and Loam going first. Because now we have to play out our Dark Depths if we want to Life and Loam. And I think that is an error to play this out. Because we don't have a solution to an opposing Thespian Stage yet. Yeah, no, that was a bit loose from me there. We could have played that one better. Alright, let's attack with our 3-3. Like, it might be totally fine just to play this Depths and Loam, but we don't need to expose ourselves to that. So next turn we got 2 4/4s jamming in. The Blast Zone can only hit our Pithing Needle and Exploration. That costs them their whole turn and loses them their Reclaimer, so I don't think that's the thing they want to do. We've invalidated the Collector Roof. Free Strider Lookout. Now this is a cool card that I really like. So whenever they commit a crime, once per turn when they commit a crime even, they get to look at the top 5 and put a land in. The card is very strong. Big fan of that one. I'm going to play this Mox Diamond, just because it pumps our constructs. So if we life from the Loam back here, if we life from the Loam here and our opponent has a crop rotation, we don't get to make an Urza Saga construct. I think we still go for it here though. This crop rotation could be a huge blowout. They've got one card in hand. I think if they had a crop rotation, they might have used it already though. Okay, sure. We are A-okay with that. We'll play our land, play another land, attack with 2 4/4s. That are secretly 5/5s. I'm going to leave out this Lush Portico so our opponent knows what we have in hand actually, so it doesn't matter. But if they're not paying attention, maybe we get some extra value there. Okay, so we've got, what, 18 damage coming across next turn. Sorry, 21 damage because each one gets +2 because we're going to go get another land, another artifact. Our opponent's deck shouldn't be playing any sort of natural order type things, but it's certainly possible. It's a card that exists in Legacy. It's very powerful. I'd be very surprised to see. I've not really seen a Green-White Depths natural order hybrid sort of deck. Alright, Yavimaya, Blast Zone. So they are blowing up my Pithing Needle and my Exploration. I can live with that. We have a lot of beef coming in still. Swords to Plowshares on one of our guys. This does get them a free Strider Lookout trigger though. Alright, just to fetch down, that's fine. So this means we don't have lethal damage this turn. Are they going to come in for 2 damage? They are. Oh, they're coming in for 5. We'll make a race of it. We are ahead on that race. Am I bringing back Loam this turn? I think so. Make a friend. And we'll get a Soul Guide Lantern, I suppose. It still gets its trigger. And we'll get rid of a Blast Zone. We don't want our opponent recurring that. So we don't have Exploration anymore. So if we want to Loam, that's not going to work out for us. So we can crack in for 12 here. Puts our opponent to 1. That's not a great position for our opponent. We've got 2 6/6 blockers and they're drawing off the top. I think we might have this one. Our opponent hasn't immediately scooped this one card in their hand. So maybe there's something there. Maybe they have a second Dried Arbor. Oh, no, they are scooping now. So this is a classic example of how, if you're just slightly bigger than your opponent's deck, you tend to be favoured in the matchup. So like a mid-range deck usually crushes on an aggro deck. But an aggro deck can go underneath some control decks. That sort of jam. So we are kind of doing similar things to our opponent, but we are just going harder into the sort of shooter box land style thing. And Urza Saga was just clearly the standout card in both games. Let's go to round 2. Okay, so what does our hand do? Very little, unless Vexing Bauble completely shuts our opponent's deck down. I think we can do better than this. We need some sort of engine card. We have a combo and we have Urza Saga. I will accept this bounty that I have been gifted. I think we've probably chucked back a Savannah. And we play the Portico on 1. We can always go and get a basic if we need it. But the plan is probably Portico on 1, Saga on 2, and then Stage on 3. And then we can go and make some constructs. And then potentially make a Marilage if we think that's going to be a better use of our mana and time. Our opponent does have the art for Reanimate as their profile. Am I supposed to just assume they're playing Reanimate? I don't believe so. It's not how I like to play Magic the Gathering. Let's have a look. With the Lush Portico. Tabernacle. I have no idea if this card is going to be useful, so I'm going to put it in the graveyard. We can always fish it out with a Life from Loam later on. We just don't know if that's where we want to be here. And because it doesn't even tap for mana, it's quite a risk just having that in, as a card in our hand. It's most likely going to be dead. Especially given that our plan is based on Urza Saga right now. Once upon a time. Okay, so it might be a Tabernacle matchup, or it might be more like Cloud Posty style stuff, or somewhere in between. Could be like Eldrazi, but it could be Cradle Control, could be Turbo Depths. I hear there's some cool people out there who like playing Turbo Depths. Okay, so Urza's Tower. I'm guessing we're looking more towards Cloud Post. Yavimaya, sure. So this means they won't have 4 mana on turn 2. A Wasteland. I'm going to save that for later, I think. Let's get our Saga running. So our opponent could be crop rotating here. But the downside for that is if they're not crop rotating and play out the Wasteland, we might not get that much use with it when we can just get this as a Saga ticket. There you go. That was a case of us valuing our own game plan more. And it worked out for us. Because our opponent's sort of top end is going to be bigger than ours. Because they're going to be going and casting Emrakuls and Ulamogs and all that sort of jazz. Whereas our plan is to stop our opponent ever getting to that point. So we need to pressure our opponent in terms of their life total and in terms of their mana. Now, fortunately, we're a deck that's very good at pressuring mana. That's the main thing our deck does. It looks like a crop rotation this turn. Okay, so they did go for that line in the end. So have 4 mana. This could be the One Ring. They could have Spirit Guide or something and play So Micah Spawn. It's just the One Ring. So we are working towards a Pithing Needle for this. So we're going to get some cards out of this. But it's not like the Mystic Forge deck where if they untap with the One Ring, they might be able to draw like the whole deck. Right, so this is ticking up. Is it more important to Wasteland my opponent here or make a threat? I think at this point of the game, we're probably in Wasteland mode. Check out the Planar Nexus because that turns everything else on. And then we can loan back these 2 cards this turn. We got the hooks in. Can our opponent cope with having a land removed every single turn? They probably have Kozilek's Command, which can wipe our graveyard. Our opponent is drawing a card, not a surprise. Or drawing 2 cards even. They must know that there is a Pithing Needle in their future, most likely. But at some point, if they've got enough cards, they might be able to play another copy of the One Ring, so it stops dealing them damage because they just replace it with a new one. A very nice forest from our opponent there. Spirit Guide, another Spirit Guide. So we're going to see a Micah Spawn, I believe. So this might be pressured into getting Wasteland to deal with our Saga to stop us Pithing Needle the One Ring. I think that's a mighty fine way of doing it. They might just want more mana, so they might get something like a Planar Nexus here to turn on their Urza's Tower, but they know we have a Wasteland incoming. Could be a Bojuka Bog. They might have a singleton one of those that they want to do and just say no more life from the lane, please. That's also reasonable. There's a lot of options here for our opponents, so I'm not surprised it's taken them a minute to work out what is their preferred option. The Wasteland. Okay, so yeah, so they're in fear of our Pithing Needle, like I said. Would love to draw an Exploration this turn. I'm not going to dredge the Loam this turn. A Ghost Quarter. I don't know how many basics our opponent runs. So if we just Wasteland our opponent this turn, they're going to draw more cards, and then we're going to Wasteland them, they're going to draw more cards, and we're just not going to be able to do anything. So what is the strategy here? I think we have to work towards a Dark Depths kill, because without being able to shut off this One Ring, if we Wasteland our opponent every turn, we're just going to be taking 3, but they're always going to be making a land drop. So I think that is the plan here. If they play a Yavimaya, or if we draw a Mox Diamond, that gives us a Dark Depths token next turn. And you know me, I love to make Dark Depths tokens. Should take 3, we got a decent amount of life. Like, this game isn't necessarily about our life total. Obviously, if we're doing nothing, and our opponent just gets to keep beating us, then sure. Like, that's kind of the Wasteland thing. If they didn't have a threat in play, then sure, I could Wasteland them every turn until we get where we need to be. That's just not the world we're living in right now. A Glimmer Post, sure. That gains them 1 life. Still shy of the 4 mana they need to basically play any spells in their deck. So they're having to go to cleanup. What are they going to get rid of? I'll not dredge this. Another Thespian's Stage. What is the plan here? So I could play out a Dark Depths, but our opponent probably has their own stage in there, so I don't want to do that just yet. I could play out this Wasteland and just make our opponent think about it, but my plan is not to actually use this Wasteland. My plan is to next turn make a 20/20 and hope that I can get through, but there's probably going to be some amount of Kozilek's Command or something like that we're going to have to worry about. And nothing else from our opponent. Windswept Heath. So I think we are just on the Dark Depths plan here. Our opponent's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, possibly a lot more though. They should be able to find a Planar Nexus. But then we're in this awkward spot of having to play around our opponent's Kozilek's Command. Yeah, I think the 1-2 punch of One Ring into, say, Micah Spawn is a bit much for us to handle, because we don't have that sort of card advantage, and the Micah Spawn got rid of our way of interacting with it. This is a matchup where the Consigned to Memories will look good though. Okay, so our opponent is clearly holding open a Kozilek's Command. Present. They might just be playing something second main, but I suspect there is a Kozilek's Command. So we need to play around that. How do we play around that? They have so much colourless mana. So we can untap, draw a card, and then Wasteland them. Try and engineer a situation where they don't have enough colourless mana to cast a Kozilek's Command. They only need 2 colourless though. Yeah, so if they're not activating, I don't think we can just play into that much colourless mana in a deck that has 4 copies of Kozilek's Command. A Boseiju. Does that help us here? Not especially. Then we can play out the Ghost Quarter. So the plan is to try and get them to tap out, but they don't need to is the problem. They can just keep riding this 3/3. Although, so this is going to be an end of turn Kozilek's Command. Now that's obviously terrible for us, but how are we even beating this? So they're going to have a load of extra mana this turn, or for their next turn, so they can just play like a big spaghetti monster and kill us. Alright, so they got 3, so there was a Kozilek's Command we're playing around. Unfortunately, it's one of those ones where by playing around it, we're probably not going to be able to beat them. The One Ring is hurting them a fair bit though. Not that we really care if we're trying to deal 20 damage though. Right, playing a Nexus, so that pumps up their Cloud Post and pumps up their tower. So we need our opponent to not win the game this turn, and also leave up just one, or just leave up enough colours mana that we can take them off of it. So they have the Lattice Lock right now. Okay. We have a solution to this. So we make the Dark Depths token, and then we can just channel the Boseiju for 1 mana to get rid of their Lattice. Let's see if they go for the Lattice Lock or not. Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, that's similar but different. An Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, this doesn't work the best for us still. We don't really have an option to play around the Kozilek's Command because of all these Eldrazi spawn tokens. So I think we're just in the situation where if I could make a 2020 right now just to block this and save us some damage in the long run. Does that feel like a good place for us to be? I don't think there's any sorcery stuff we need to worry about though. They play the Planar Nexus this turn, so they're not playing another land. Try and kill their Soaring Microspawn. We're getting Kozilek's Command straight up. Crop Rotation, you say. That also does it here. So they have a Karakas. Oh. What happened there? Did they misclick? No, they went to go a tower, sorry. That's what my brain did. My brain was so expecting to see the Karakas. I was perplexed when the tower came in. So this is just adding more mana. So just doing a bigger Kozilek's Command. How are we supposed to beat this Kozilek's Command? I don't think we do, if that's what they have. I think the way we beat this is by going to the sideboard, bringing our Consign to Memories, and keeping hands that can really punish our opponent's mana base. Maybe they're fearful of some sort of Sajiri Step type card, or Talons, or Talon Gate of Madara, because that would save our creature and then it would come back in on our turn. And if we have an answer to the bridge, we can attack. I think I'll just scoot that one and go to the sideboard. So our opponent's going to be able to Lattice Lock us next turn. So Force of Vigor is pretty useful. This Cursed Totem can stop our opponent's Eldrazi spawn if that's the thing we care about. The Consign to Memory is obviously very good. Get Lost kills Karn, which is probably more important than killing their other things. So I think we can get rid of the Plows in favour of the Get Lost and Consigns. Vexing Bauble, probably not the most useful. Our opponent probably has some out of them themselves. We don't need the Saga Lantern or the Bojuka Bog in this matchup. I like the Ghost Quarter and the Boseiju, they all hit lands. Karakas is relevant here at times. Tabernacle is relevant too. So we have one more cut to find if we want to play all of these. Maybe I'll trim a Mox Diamond here. Just because I'm a little bit fearful of our opponent's ability to... Actually, no, we need the Mox Diamonds for the blue, don't we? No, I was going to say, I'm a bit fearful of our opponent's ability to hit us with the Force of Vigor. So maybe we just trim one of these. Is it a Loam or a Library? It's something in that ballpark, isn't it? I don't think we can... Actually, no, get rid of the Maze of Ith. That makes more sense. We're not going to need that many of them. Like, having a couple is nice so that we don't just take little pecks from their guys. Let's reveal our Hero, the Orphan Guard. What does our hand do? We Wasteland lock our opponent pretty much from the start of the game. That's going to be a yes from me. Let's play this one out. And we'll exile this. I'll play this Wasteland. And... okay, to life and loan back this card. The classic land start right there. I didn't want to play out Saga and Diamond because that just gives our opponent a very easy Force of Vigor 2-for-1. And does slow us down a little bit. But we have the Wasteland lock if we want it right now. But we have to be... Alright, they're just getting rid of the Loam, sure. And we now know what Graveyard Hate our opponent's playing. Fairy Macabre is the most common Graveyard Hate played at the moment, so it's not a shocker to see that one. Yavimaya. So our opponent is holding up the crop rotation, so I'm not just going to play straight into that crop rotation. Oh, I love a Consign to Memory though. Let's just play this as a Saga. We've got a win condition in play now. We've got the ability to tax our opponent's mana. We can stop the scariest things they can do. We can punish crop rotation lines with our Wasteland. So our opponent can time things in a way that can annoy us. I'd like to draw just another land would be fine here. Coloured Source. Just allow us to hold up more options. Well, it is a coloured source, isn't it? I think I will put this one into play, though. We do have the Yavimaya over there, but I'm not expecting this Yavimaya to be around for very long. I think our opponent's going to crop rotate away at some point. So end step, we'll leave up the blue when we go to... well, the blue or the green while we go to make a Saga token. A crop rotation. So we could just straight up Wasteland this Planar Nexus. I don't think I'm going to do that. There's a tower. So if they're playing a Myco Spawn, we can replicate our Consign to Memory. If they play the One Ring, we can just... I'm not sure what this green is representing. It could be something like a Vale of Sun, but I don't think our opponent would bring that in against us. It could just be a crop rot. This pause on our opponent's end step does make me think they have a crop rot and they're thinking if they want to fire it off now when we're tapped out. Not sure how I feel about this one. We'll see what they get and maybe I'll understand a bit more. Another tower. Alright, so this is going to be a little Kozilek's command to take out our... Oh, it's a Disruptor Flute. Naming Wasteland, most likely. There it is. Yep, pretty cool. Not a bad line. So I will make a construct here. I kind of want to crop rotate into a Ghost Quarter here. I think I'll get this Pithing Needle. And what am I most scared of? It probably is the One Ring at this point. Attack. So I can either get the library down or I can Ghost Quarter this and set them back a whole load of mana. I think that's probably what we have to do. So let's crop rotate away our Wasteland. Go and get that there, Ghost Quarter. A big Ghost Quarter enthusiast. Let's go to this Planar Nexus, shut down the 2 towers. Giving our best Lord of the Rings life there. Just shutting down those 2 towers. Okay. They're just going to immediately play another one or crop rotate for it. I can feel it in my bones. There it is. I did call it. 8 mana. What could they do with that? Karn and Snaring Bridge. That works pretty well here. Okay, they're holding up for a Kozilek's command instead. Understood. Land out. Attack for some damages. So what land do I want to keep up? Karakas might be able to interact with our opponent. But if they play an Unamog, which is like the lowest cost legend they play, they're going to blow this up before this enters. So we're going to just leave up the mana that does anything. Can I get myself 10 damage into our opponent here? Beast Within. Have not seen one of those in a hot minute. Cool. I've not seen this art before either. That's pretty freaky looking. A Once Upon a Time as well. See what they're going to reveal to us. A Sowing Mycospawn. So they certainly can kick this. Yes, they can. And that's going to be a problem for us. Because they're going to take out our 2 Sagas, most likely. I don't know if they want to get someone like an Eye of Ugin here. That is an option. They could just play the Mycospawn, get the Eye, and then immediately activate the Eye. And have a thing for next turn. Maybe that's better than kicking this. I think both routes win in the game. We might be able to do a weird play here. Where we attack with some guys. So if we attack with all of our guys, they block the beast token. We get lost our own beast token, and that gives us 2 maps, which makes our other guys lethal. That's a pretty sweet line that we might be able to surprise our opponent with, because map tokens, if I'm correct, are artifacts. Let's see what we can do here. Please block my beast token. So they've got no card in hand, so we know this is lethal if they do that. And they don't want to do that. So if we blow this up, this gives us +1. So this would be 5, 6, 7, 8. That's not enough. So if we just make a construct here, that's kind of the same deal. We don't get to do our fun little play that I had in mind. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. So 7 of that goes away. That leaves me with 4 mana, 5, 6 mana. So they could kick us Mycospawn. They could play and kick a Mycospawn next turn. I don't know if that's good enough to win the game though. I guess we'll find out. I guess if they get a Tabernacle and blow up one of our lands, then we only get to keep 2 creatures, and that's not lethal then. No, it still is lethal, right? If we keep 2 artifacts, they're both 4/4s. Yeah, so that doesn't work for them. Yep, alright, they scooped it up, and we're going to game 3. I want to change any of my sideboarding plan. I don't believe so. I'm quite happy with what we've got. Let's just go in again. So we can shut down the One Ring with this hand. We can consign to memory something spooky, like a Mycospawn. We don't have a plan outside our own crop rotation, but that is a reasonable plan, I think. Maybe this one's too reactive, I don't know. I'm going to keep this one for science. I think this one has a lot of promise. Like, if we just draw a Life from the Loam, then we're just absolutely cooking. We can Mox Diamond, throw away the Dark Depths, play the Boseiju out, and then we have access to consign, crop rot, all sorts of stuff. We can probably crop rot away this Maze of Ith on the second turn. Depends how much mana our opponent has. If they look like they have the potential to cast a Sowing Mycospawn, we need to have access to consign to memory plus another mana. Opponent kept 7. Yavimaya. Does that change anything for us? A Ghost Vacuum. Sure. That's going to be pretty good against some of the things that we're trying to attempt. But not the things we actually have right now. Let's go. Let's play this Mox Diamond. I guess we're going to get rid of this Dark Depths. We'll worry about that later. And don't want to rely on our opponent's Yavimaya. I don't think I can. But I also don't want to play this Boseiju out when we could use it to blow up something later on. Alright, I'm going to play this Maze of Ith. with the intention of tapping it for green mana, hopefully. Now, we might not need to. So if our opponent has a One Ring, we don't consign that. We consign the Myco Spawn. Planar Nexus. And nothing else. Okay. We got through that one okay. We could have crop rotated at end of turn. I don't think that's necessarily where I need to be right now. Happy to have this Thespian stage. Just keep our mana up for now. We can make a 20/20 if our opponent taps out due to their own Yavimaya. Because we can turn the Maze of Ith into a Dark Depths. We do need to watch out for some things our opponent can deploy though. So play a tower this turn. If they have a Spirit Guide, they can kick a Myco Spawn. So they don't have 2 colourless mana here. So can't kill our guy. Let's crop rotate this. Let's go to Dark Depths. Do I want to make a 20/20 right now? If we make a 20/20, they can't Kozilek's Commander, but they can certainly do something with a crop rotation. I don't think we're supposed to do that. I think we're supposed to wait. And then we can play the Savannah out. And then we can use this mana now because we might not have that mana later. And we can Pithing Needle here. And we can name Karakas. Just sort of tick some boxes of what our opponent can have access to. So they can't crop rotate into Karakas to stop our Dark Depths now. So they need to have colourless. And they didn't make a land last turn in their deck that needs lots of lands. Alright, we're getting crop rotation from our opponent. I'm going to allow that. This is probably for a Urza's Tower. There it is. So if they tap low enough, then we can make the Merit Legacy. If they don't, then we can untap and just hold this consigned. So we might be sort of staring at each other for another turn cycle. The One Ring. Is this my fight? Feels like a pretty good thing to fight over, doesn't it? Opponent's still missing on land drops over there. So we play out this Thespian stage. This gives us access to the Boseiju before we crop rotate here. Do we want to... We could just Boseiju one of their lands right now. Check out the Planar Nexus. That gives them reliable green. But if we take this out and they have 2 of any colour... interesting. Alright, I think I'm just going to hit this one. This means we can't make the Merit Lage this turn. Because there's no more Yavimaya. But it stops our opponent from being able to deploy anything meaningful next turn. Maybe we're supposed to play the Expedition map as well. That was a bit of a mistake there. But if our opponent has another Yavimaya, we've already seen some of them, then they're in a situation where they don't really want to play it out. A Glimmer Post, good. Another Dark Depths. I will play out this Expedition map. So our opponent is now representing the Kozilek's Command. A Karakas. We have that covered with the Pithing Needle already. Is this another copy of the One Ring? It is a copy of the One Ring. So we can either make a 20/20 right now, or we can Expedition map for something. I think I'm going to Expedition map and try and get some Wasteland action going. Tabernacle is probably not where we want to be. Happy with this Wasteland though. We're going to take out one of our opponent's colourless sources to make it more difficult. So this is the one that jumps up the most mana potentially. So we take that one out. We do it now before our opponent has crop rotation mana. So they need to find a colourless land so they can deploy a Kozilek's Command. It goes back and just eating stuff out of our graveyard so that we don't ever get to life from low in a profitable fashion. You draw some more cards. There is a Glimmer Post and a Wasteland for our opponent. So they can interact with us. If we go to copy this Thespian stage, copy this, and they just throw it back in our face. But I don't mind that, actually. If they want to Wasteland our Dark Depths, we have another Dark Depths in hand anyway. And now they're just giving us Wastelands. They also only have 4 minutes and a half on their clock, whereas we have been taking our time a little bit better here. So if we Wasteland our opponent now, we can Wasteland their Wasteland. This just cuts them off with more mana overall. So they'll probably fire this off in response. They're going to hit our Savannah, are they? How do I feel about that? I'm going to float to green. So then you get to get rid of one of our lands, and we get to get 3 back here. Which one do you not want me to have, opponent? They're all pretty annoying for you. Probably the Boseiju, because that directly blows up one of their lands right now. Or they have a Fairy Macabre. Oh, they get to get rid of all 3 of them. Or they get rid of 2 of them, and we get the Savannah back, and then they Ghost Vacuum the Loam. Okay, so we do get to get the Loam back and up and running for the Tabernacle. Our opponent has 4 minutes to try and convert this, though. So now they can just remove the Loam as well. Goodbye, life from the Loam. They should be doing it now. Yeah. Khan the Great Creator. A bit of a doozy, isn't it? What are they going to find with this? Oh, they're just going to blow up on Mox. That's fine, too. I say fine. It's pretty miserable. Yeah, our opponent's wriggled through this one. The One Ring is quite the Magic the Gathering card, as it turns out. Their engine is up and running and ours isn't. Maybe when we put this on Karakas, that was a mistake. We don't have white mana, which is a real tilter here. But our opponent does need to try and win the game in 3.5 minutes. So they are almost certainly going to be able to play a land. Yep. So are they going to Khan right now? Or are they going to go for something else? Didn't even activate that Khan. Not even a plus. How peculiar. If we find a white source, we get to kill the Khan. Yeah, we just got blown up pretty hard by that Fairy Macabre. Alright, so they're discarding this Emerald. That's more operations. That's 3 minutes left on their clock. Force of Vigor that we can't cast. So our opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 mana. Disrupt a Flute. Yeah, it's pretty good. If our opponent finds themselves a single land, they get to Lattice lock us here. I could make my opponent play through this, but 2.5 minutes to close with a 6/6 Lattice is probably fine. What? Why are you kicking the Mica Spawn? They had the win on board with the Lattice lock here. This might still win them the game, but it just seems like they could have just shut this game right down when we just had one colourless mana. What are we going to be doing with that? You can't kill Lattice with a Force of Vigor either. Because by the time it's in play, it's all colourless. Yeah, why didn't you do that before? You could have just killed us. Now you've put yourself down to less time. Maybe we can make our opponent play this one out. There's no Yavimaya in play, so we can't get our Mox Diamond to do what it needs to do here, unfortunately. The Khan as well. It's just everything is slightly a problem for us. But we'll see what our opponent does here. So they attack us for 3. They make the Lattice. Next turn they attack us for 9. Turn after they attack us for 9 and kill us. So they need to get through 3 combat steps. 2 combat steps even. No, 3 combat steps. And they've only got 1 minute 30. They're taking a very long time to cast their spells. So I think we'll let them play out. I wouldn't normally do this, but they are like 10 minutes below us on clock. I'm just going to cast an Ulamog here. They're casting a Force of Vigor. That's so unnecessary. It doesn't do anything here. Just cast your Lattice. Alright, they're just activating their Wandering. I think they're not going to be able to do this, you know. With the Tabernacle triggers, I think they've misplayed this one into a point where they're going to lose. Play this one out. This puts a trigger on the stack for them to respond to. They bounce the Wandering so they don't take damage from it. Did you have to do that now? I don't know. So now they play the Lattice out. But they have 30 seconds. They need to attack. So this puts us at 10. So they need this attack step and 2 more. I don't think they can do it in 26 seconds with a Tabernacle trigger. Yep. So they come in for 9. And they got 13 seconds. They might be able to do it. I don't know. They've been very slow on playing for their spells. Oh, they've gone to attacks. Yeah. So they lose this game because they made a couple of errors, in my opinion. We timed our opponent out. I hate winning games of Magic the Gathering that way. But what I do like about Magic the Gathering is that the chess clock is a real thing. And you have to play for it. If this was, like, if we were both in the red on clockwise, I would have scooped this up. But the fact is, our opponent is 10 minutes behind us on clock. That is a huge amount of time when you have a 25-minute clock. So there's a lesson there for people. And we get the match win. It all goes into the wonderful world of Depthcember wins. Let's get to round 3. I wonder if we forgot about Kira, the Orphan card, in the previous round at any point. I don't think it would have been a thing that mattered, but maybe we could have played it out, I don't know. So what does our hand do? We have a route to Dark Depths. We also have an Urza Saga plan. It's fine. The fact that we have a crop rotation so we can rely on our Urza Saga a bit more than normal is fine as well. I'll put out this Windswept Heath. That way we can crop rotate if we need to do like Bojuka Bog. Or we can go and get a Karakas. Oh, sorry, we can't get the Karakas. We can go and get the Lush Portico. Just by cracking it and just having a little look at what's coming up. Alright, Lush Portico. Otawara. Don't really want that right now. We don't have other blue mana yet. This opponent will make our opponent think about blue stuff that we may or may not have. As a Saga, let's get that ticking. This is a tough choice whether or not we get rid of the forest or the Karakas. I think I'm going to get rid of the Karakas though. And then I will use this expedition map. This as a Saga to play the expedition map, and we can still hold up the crop rotation. So next turn we can start churning out 3/3s. And they're going to be cracking for a lot more when they eventually start hitting. If our opponent is like a slow control deck, these Urza Sagas will do a lot of work. If our opponent is a combo-y style deck, then it's just going to do very little. Because they should be able to combo before they start killing them. Now if they use their life total as a resource, then maybe we can strip that away from them a little bit and have some action that matters. But we'll see. We also can crack our expedition map if we see anything we want. Depends on if we want this to be points of damage or we need it to be a special land. Alright, our opponent's doing show and tell stuff here. What do I want to do here? I think we probably have to crack this. We don't have this Karakas anymore. What is our solution to what our opponent is putting down? We could try and make a 2020. That beats a lot of things that they can show and tell in. Alright, I'm down for that. On the stage first. Omniscience. Okay, it doesn't matter what we did. Another Omniscience, just so they've got one in the bank. So we didn't have enough mana to go and get a Boseiju to stop this line. So we got Loam revealed, they're drawing some cards. We're a long way off of Vexing Bauble yet. Big ol' Squiddles McDiddles. Sure. This is probably going to be a pretty gnarly matchup for us, I'm afraid. What are we doing here? Are these useful? No. Are these useful? Occasionally. Is the Blue Blast useful? Sometimes. Like, they might have some Pyroblast in their deck if they're Sneak and Show, or Omni Sneak, or whatever you want to call it. Consigned to Memory doesn't really work the way I want it to. It can stop an Annihilator trigger, but that's not really going to be the thing that stops us losing the game, is it? But let's have a think about what we're doing first. And what doesn't look good. So we don't need the Saga Lantern or the Boseiju. Do we need Boseiju? Sorry, and the Bojuka Bog, not Boseiju. We need the Dark Depths. Ghost Quarter is fine. Maze of Ith looks a bit weak. So we could take those out. That gives us a slot to play one Consigned to Memory. Although, actually no, we want this Get Lost because this hits enchantments, doesn't it? And we can take out a Plow for one of these. Do I think these Plows are ever going to be useful? Sometimes. Like, I think there's definitely some options. Like if they show and tell in an Atraxa, we can at least kill it. I think that's okay. And I don't know if these consigns are ever going to do anything. Like we can counter an Atraxa trigger, we can counter an Emrakul trigger. I guess I'm talking myself into, aren't I? Maybe we don't want these crop rots, or they just have a bad time into our opponents. Actually, no, we can get rid of Tabernacle first, can't we? And maybe the Talon gates. That gives us 2 of these. And we get rid of 1 crop rot. Let's try something along these lines. We could keep the Talon gates because it makes blue mana, but I don't think that's right. Phasing out their creature is unlikely to make the difference. I guess we could phase out something they've sneak attacked in, actually. Maybe that is better than I'm thinking it is. So we can ramp out. We have our Karakas, which is good against some of the things our opponent does. Have a way of blowing up Omniscience. We don't have any engine of our own. This is just a horrible matchup. Full stop, isn't it? Is there... I think we keep this on the back of the Karakas. Ugh. Having the Yavimaya out, though, isn't... having the Exploration out is pretty handy, though. Let's go Exploration. Gets Karakas in play. So we have answers for some of our opponent's things. Now, they might have Magus of the Moon. Just one of these things we're going to have to deal with. We don't know how into red our opponent is from the previous game. They might not have any. They might just be a green deck, right? I don't think we saw any red cards. They did not shuffle off that ponder, so we might be seeing a big monster as early as turn 2. Another Exploration. That doesn't really help where we're at right now. So we have access to Casting, Force of Vigor, and Get Lost. What does exactly the map tokens do? Target creature you control explores. What does Explore do? I think it's look at top card. If it's a land, you can put it in your hand. Otherwise, you put +1/+1 counter. Once upon a time, reading the cards used to tell you what they did. But now you need to remember many, many keywords. A Ghost Quarter. I don't hate that one. How many basics do we think our opponent has here? Is this worth just firing straight off on an island? Like, I'll certainly give it a go. This might let us find out some more information about our opponent's deck, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think our opponent is absolutely laughing in a matchup like this. Right, they did have another island. So I am beginning to think our opponent might be blue-green Omnitel. So the upside of blue-green Omnitel is that they don't play, for us anyway, is that they don't play any Mages of the Moon. But the downside for us is that it's going to be pretty horrible to try and win against anyway. You don't really stop them in any meaningful fashion. Let's see. It is green mana. A show and tell. We have no way of putting a trigger on the stack here. There is the Omniscience. A Lorien revealed. Let's... So I could get lost this instead. And that gives us mana to still use our Karakas. I think we have to do that, don't we? Also plays around days. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand though. Brainstorms and stuff can go over the top here. It's kind of brave playing an Omnitel deck in the world of Vexing Bauble. Like the league I played the other day, I played against 5 bauble decks in a row. I probably might be running their own baubles because they can crack them, but the problem is you don't get to cast your spells for free under Omniscience apart from Emrakul, which can't be counted. Cunning Wish, that should do it. They go and get Shared Summons and get Emrakul and kill us. Yeah, that matchup looks abysmal. Let's go to round 4. Good old Kahira the Orphan Guard. I guess we did have some situations where we could have played Kahira the Orphan Guard in the previous game, but what do I feel about this one? We've got some stuff covered here. Right, we can cover their graveyard, we can cover free spells, and then we have crop rotation to kind of glue everything else together. I think I'll give this one a go. Once Upon a Time. What flavour of Once Upon a Time deck are we looking at? Bojuka Bog. I think our opponent is playing Cradle Control. That's what this makes me think. So our Saga Lantern is going to be a better play than our Vexing Bauble here. Elvish Spirit Guide, crop rotation. Okay, no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are on Cloud Post. Lotus Petal. So sometimes people run that instead of Spirit Guide. Pithing Needle, sure. Our opponent's playing their hand out, but it's not really doing anything. Oh, actually, no, I know what our opponent's playing. They're playing Turbo Depths, aren't they? I see. I see what's happening here. So the Maze of Ith is certainly useful down the stretch. Let's play out this Mox Diamond. Get rid of this Bojuka Bog. Play this. I think we can jam a Vexing Bauble to shut off their Not of This World. Alright, so this is the matchup that I hate playing from the Turbo Depth side, because the lands deck just has so many ways of interacting with the Marriage or Dark Depths and Thespian stage. Sylvan Scrying, yep, everything is... So this might even be someone playing my exact list that I posted up on my Patreon with a sideboard guide quite recently. Okay, I don't think we need to crop rotate now, we can go to our turn. I think we get this Lush Portico though, to get that tiny extra bit of information. Sylvan Library. That is a good card, but is that what we're doing right now? We want to keep up Maze of Ith and crop rotation, so I think we have to put this into the graveyard, or do we put it on top so we have another wave later on? We have another wave later on of good stuff. Playing the Maze of Ith out. So we have Karakas. We have Maze of Ith. This is just loads and loads of additional problems for our opponent to look through. At least I'm putting some more Dark Depths action on the screen for you lovely people. There is the Dark Depths. There is the Dark Depths. Our opponent has made what I would describe as an error here, because this crop rotates now into a Thespian stage, and then we copy their Dark Depths. So I said earlier that you want to have the last card that leaves your hand be the Dark Depths. This is exactly why. They might have a crop rotate here. Sure. We still have the Maze of Ith, and we're still holding up the Thespian stage for future Marriages. Oh, Turbo Depths is so cool. Why aren't we playing Turbo Depths? Don't worry, there'll be a fair amount of Turbo Depths in this Depthcember. I wonder what they go for here. If they go for another Dark Depths, and we can just do the exact same thing again. Okay, they've gone for a Karakas. So their build is slightly different to what I would play myself, or what I have been playing myself. There's a Saga is kind of nice here, but we can't Thespian stage and play out the Saga. So, and play out the library. So we're probably just going to play the Saga and use this to play the Soul Guide. We'll hit the Dark Depths just in case they are playing a Loam build, because they're playing some things that aren't in my stock list. I basically don't like Karakas. I feel if you're spending your tutors to go and get a thing like Karakas, then you're probably already just taking yourself further away from winning. Like, there are situations where it comes up and is good, but I think at the moment it's not really where I like to be. Another Sylvan Scrying. A Dark Depths. Dark Depths has entered the chat. So in our opponent's end step, we will copy this Karakas. Thank you for the Karakas, opponent. So it's now getting to the stage where I think our opponent is really going to struggle to win this game. So we have Karakas and Maze of Ith up, and we just make a construct token. That is more than enough for me. It does feel scary being on this side of the Turbo Depths thing. Okay, so they're playing this into our Bauble. That's a freebie for us. Make a friend. Okay, and we can make another friend. Thespian stage. That does make me want more mana. Do I think I'm okay with just Karakas and Maze of Ith? And I guess we have the stage. Yeah, I believe that's fine. It does change the clock in a pretty dramatic way. So we can go and get an expedition map here, or we get a Pithing Needle named Stage. Do I want the expedition map, or do I just want a Pithing Needle naming Stage here? Just really slow our opponent down. It's going to be pretty brutal for our opponent. Why is the 6 in blue, but the other 6 is in black on the power toughness? Answer me that one. Alright, so our Thespian stage can't turn into a Dark Depths, but neither can theirs. And we got 12 damage coming in next turn. I feel... Yep, okay, there is the win. So this matchup is horrible for our opponent, which is good news for us. So this destroys enchantments, creatures, or planeswalkers. We can't destroy an indestructible creature. Consigned to memory. This doesn't work against Dark Depths like you think it would. So what happens with Dark Depths is as soon as it has no counters on it, it checks state-based effects, and then it puts the trigger on the stack. And then if you are to remove that trigger on the stack, it'll once again see it has 0 counters and put itself on the stack. So this does not actually work. The Force of Vigor blowing up our opponent's Pithing Needles might be relevant. So I like the Vexing Bauble. We do not require Soaring Lantern or Bojuka Bog here. So that gets us 2 of these Force of Vigors. And everything else here is fine. Like, I love the Otawara, all of these things. Like, oh God. We just got a wealth of tools that are really, really good in this matchup. Wow. Tabernacle is probably the least exciting one here. So I think we'll get rid of the Tabernacle. And yeah, just seems pretty good. If our opponent shows us some things like Elvish Reclaimers, which have been in and out of lists, mostly out, but occasionally you'll see them in, then we can broaden the cast totems or some get lost. But I think this is more than enough to beat what our opponent's got going on. This is a pretty brutal one for our opponent. So, what does our hand do? We have a Maze of Ith. We have a Mox Diamond. We have a Wasteland. We have a Crop Rotation. We have a Source Plowshares. All of these things are great. So, we have to decide how we're playing around our opponent's first turn. If their first turn isn't that explosive, then we have the ability to just have a turn where we deploy some lands and go. Okay, so we're seeing a Yavimaya and a Lotus Petal. That's quite a powerful start, potentially. Alright, we're getting another Once Upon a Time. That's less of what our opponent wants to be doing. So this isn't setting up for a turn to... Okay, so they've got a Wasteland in their deck as well. Very interesting that they're running this and not the Lotus... the Ghost Quarter. I'll play out a Mox Diamond. I will pitch this Otawara. Play a Maze of Ith. I will Loam, getting back this. Thank you, opposing Yavimaya. My current list do not run Yavimaya. It helps some decks out a little bit too much, and I don't think it's entirely necessary. I don't know if our opponent's running Lumbering Megasloth, though. That could be an interesting thing that we have to deal with. But we've got Wasteland on the go, we've got Maze of Ith, we've got Loam. Our opponent's just scooped up. So this matchup is horrible for the Depths player. You basically have to go in underneath them. I think my win rate against it is like 37, 38%, something like that. It's not great. It's still winnable, but it is not a fun one to be looking at. So that's 4 rounds in the books, and we are 3-1, so we're doing all right. Let's see if we can put a nice 4-1 on the board with some good old-fashioned lands, and maybe even cast Kahira the Orphan Guard one time. What do I think about this particular hand? We can not really deploy what we want that much. I guess we could turn 1 Sylvan Library. Yeah, I love the Sylvan Library. I was just playing some pre-modern yesterday in real life with some friends. Getting people playing their old Sylvan Libraries out. Good times. Mox Diamond, let's go. Mox Diamond. We don't have a Life from the Loam to do the classic play, but Sylvan Library is probably better considering the lands we discarded that don't actually tap for mana. Okay, Force of Will pitching Brainstorm. This is I wouldn't say a disaster, but it's not far off that. Windswept Heath. We're looking at the probably Nadu Zenith would be my guess. Could be Bug Beans though. Okay, it's Nadu Zenith. Sure. We have a piece of removal, a Crop Rotation that we can't use, and a Source of Plowshares that we can. If our opponent just plays out the Nadu this turn, we can kill it, but they'll probably wait until they have enough mana to do Nadu plus Nomads. Alright, we've got a Brainstorm, so there's no Nadu coming down this turn unless they're running some sort of accelerant like an Elvish Spirit Guide, which seems very unlikely to me. Not impossible, but I would be surprised to see it. Yeah, getting your bits of damage here. Can we find a land that does stuff? Found a land that does stuff. It's not a bad land. We can also turn it into whatever we want via this Crop Rotation. A Hedge Maze. They left a card on top. So they could just Nadu like a boss this turn. There is the Nadu. I would like to Swords to Plowshares this creature. Should probably do this in the end step rather than now. Green Sun Zenith. So they have another Nadu in hand. Cool. Force of Will. Okay. I'm not even sure I want to Karakas that. Tabernacle is in the bin. That is the card I would get here, isn't it? Let's have a look at our deck. What can we find here that is useful? Talon Gate's not really doing it. Oh dear, oh dear. I guess step one is get the Lush Portico on the go. If we like the top card enough, we can keep it. Savannah, okay. Don't really care about that one. Alright, let's try and find something here. It is a shame that this Tabernacle is in the graveyard right now. Bojuka Bog, a Ghost Quarter, Maze of Ith. What are we doing here? We could just Wasteland them and try and make it more difficult for them to go off. I don't know how we're supposed to beat this. Like, we can bounce their guy. That draws them a card. Maybe we are just trying to Wasteland them over and over again until they can't play the Nadu. That seems awkward, I would say. Because we've seen Brainstorm Force of Will, this isn't going to be a Chord of Calling list, so we can happily wait till they put something on the stack. Yeah. So on their turn, we can wait till they play a thing, and then we can bounce the Nadu. They probably go to attacks first. Spring Heart Nantuko. Let's bounce the Nadu. Have an additional card, please, opponents. Prismatic Ending. Well, there goes our Mox Diamond. Oh dear, do I want to keep playing this game? I don't know how we're supposed to beat this. I guess if we draw a Loam and can play this Tabernacle. Did not have the ability to play the Tabernacle. Okay, let's rotate this away. Let's go get another Wasteland. What do we Wasteland? We hit the only white source, they can't Prismatic End us. We hit this, it doesn't matter because they tap it with this. Yeah, I think we just take the thing to stop the Prismatic Ending from happening. Now, if they can play neither this turn, I'll just scoop it up. Because there's no way we're beating them drawing 16 cards before their next turn. But they don't have the mana. Okay, so they're having to tutor for a mana dork here. This could be a Dryad Arbor. Yep. I was going to say it could be a Hierarch. So you have to attack with one guy, but it's kind of much of a muchness at that point. Exploration. Okay, so we're dead now. So they have the mana to play Nadu and we're just dead. Okay, this is why we have Cursed Totems in our sideboard. A card I love, although this is not a particular artwork I like to use. Graphica's Cage stops their Green Sun Zeniths. The Get Losts feel like we want to kill their creatures. So what do we not need? We do not need Graveyard Hate, so these two can get out of here. We want to keep the Vexing Bauble. Ghost Quarter, Karakas, these are all good. The Maze of Ith, not so hot. That's not really what this game is about. We can at least cut two of these, I think. Two. Do I prefer Maze of Ith or Talon Gates here? What are we doing with the Talon Gates? We can phase out something and maybe buy us a turn. I'm not into that much. Maybe we'll get rid of those and just have something that looks like this. Consign to Memory can stop some Nadu triggers. Is that really where I want to be, though? I don't think it is. Alright, we're going to go in like this. I do not feel good about this matchup. I would like to Wasteland my opponent into the dirt. Play the Mox Diamond. Just loan this back. Now, we could have used the Windswept Heath there so we get an additional thing back, kind of. But this way, if we draw another Wasteland, then we can hold up a Wasteland for their turn as well. Suffice to say, we're going to be trying to strip away all of our opponent's removals, all of our opponent's creatures. Right, they had creatures that we can't remove. Is it worth dredging this right now? What does that actually do for us? I don't think it is worth dredging it right now. Not really a payoff there. So I'll play out this Windswept Heath because this gets us the Lush Portico. I'll play out this Mox Diamond and bin off, I guess it's a forest here. And then I will pass. So they can play the Nadu this turn. Oh wow, they're just attacking for one. That is excellent news for us. Another Delight Halfling. Less than excellent news for us. Okay, let's Lush Portico and then we can see if we want to Loam or not. So we're looking for Tabernacle, really. Loam. I'll put that into the graveyard, I guess. Let's dredge the Loam now. This is more looks at Tabernacle. Did not find the Tabernacle here. That is awkward. Do I think they have a basic island they're going to get off of this? So we can Boseiju this and see if our opponent does anything about it. See what they find. They do have a basic island. Okay. So I guess we're just bringing these cards back. And then we don't have anything else, but I guess we have the marginal thinning of a fetch land. That's something. We don't have like another Lush Portico in there. Yeah, this matchup feels entirely miserable. Maybe we should have mulliganed to something that had some removal in rather than trying to go after their lands. I wasn't sure how many basics our opponent would necessarily have access to. Hedge Maze, sure. A milled off a land. Right, let's just crack this and go and get Savannah or Trop. It doesn't matter, let's get Savannah. Okay, so we can take out the Hedge Maze. I guess we dredge this in case we find the Tabernacle. We did not find the Tabernacle. This only hits non-basics, so it's basically the same as a Wasteland at this point. Let's just Loam this back. And we get to play out a land here. Doesn't matter what land we play. I guess the Windswept Heath thins us for Tabernacle, but if we want a Tabernacle, we want a Wasteland in the same turn cycle, so let's just play the Wasteland out. We could play out the Dark Depths, maybe we get a 2020, but it just feels like we're just treading water until our opponent kills us. So they might be able to get something like a Sylvan Safekeeper here, but nope, we're just coming in for a bunch of damages. We do also have a Ghost Quarter that's probably going to be quite handy here. Our opponent might have a Counter Spell or Graveyard Hate as well. But if you find the Tabernacle like we have done now, it might not be good enough. Can I please have my Tabernacle? There is a Force of Negation as well. Okay. I guess I don't want to pay the life at this point, do I? With a fetch land. So I think we play out the Dark Depths. So the plan is to dredge this other life from Loam next turn, and then get back the Tabernacle and hope that we're not dead in the meantime. Brainstorm, this is a lot of looks at killing us. If they have white mana nomads, we lose. If they have Green Sun Zenith, we probably don't lose immediately, but we're close to losing. We'll probably lose over the course of a few turns. But the Tabernacle's still good at that point. Okay, so this looks like a Zenith for 3. What is this? What 3-drop do they have? Or they're just doing it for 3 and then getting whatever they want. Okay, they're getting the Endurance. Yeah, that's a guy, isn't it? So now we can't draw the Tabernacle because it's on the bottom of our library, but we can draw a Crop Rotation. Boy, howdy does this feel miserable. A Wasteland, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, we just got absolutely clowned apart there. Yeah, that matchup feels gross, but hopefully we won't have to deal with Nadu for too much longer. Alright, so that is the end of the league. We finished with a 3-2, which is fine considering this deck is certainly not anywhere in the top couple of tiers of decks. It is quite low down. I can't remember the last time I saw lands this low in the meta. So that's something. I think part of the reason why lands are so low is because combo is incredibly prevalent right now. And land struggles against combo quite a lot. We want to be sort of grinding out some of these fair creature decks. That's what we want to be doing. And we just don't have time to do that against a lot of these decks. So how do I feel about this list? Well, I think the first thing I'm going to mention that you probably have all guessed is Kahira the Orphan Guard should not be in this deck. When are you going to want a 3-2 guy for 6 mana? I just don't think that's the thing we ever want in this deck. And we're losing a sideboard slot. We can have another removal spell in there, for example. And that maybe helps us out in some of those matchups a little bit more. So I think the Kahira the Orphan Guard's got to go, and you've got to have something a bit more useful in there. But basically, this league was just a case of when we were up against the matchups that were fine, you know, we were just doing our thing and it was great. And we were against the matchups that were bad, then it was bad. The Cloudpost one was interesting. I think that is kind of the only even-ish matchup that we're playing because they have a bunch of stuff that can kind of get out of range of what we're doing, but we have lots of stuff that can sort of drag them back down into the depths and stop them from, yes, I said depths, drag them back down into the depths and stop them being able to execute on their game plan. So I think there's some interesting back and forth in that matchup, and the other matchups were kind of just went to form, really, of how they would normally go if you were to run the games 100 times. They would kind of be like that most of the time. Sadly, I don't think lands is where you want to be in Legacy right now, but it's only a couple of weeks and then we get some delicious bans, and hopefully we'll find ourselves in a format where there's enough space for lands to breathe. Obviously, it sucks for me as a Turbodepths player if lands comes back, but it is a classic archetype that I like to see a bit of love for. Alright, this was João Fernando's deck from the Lisbon League Top 8. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.